You may be seated.
Hello, Your Honor.
Hello.
This is a case of Kelly versus Duncan and Anthony.
Thank you, Jerome. Good day, everyone. Ms. Kelly, you are here to determine if one of two men we've tested for paternity is your biological father. You hope to leave this courtroom today knowing your father's identity so he can walk you down the aisle at your wedding.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, Mr. Duncan, you argue that Mr. Kelly's mother was in a relationship with you and another man during the time you dated. Now, while there are paternity questions, you hope you are her biological father.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, we'll also hear from a second possible father, Mr. Anthony. He claims he was shocked just a few months ago. Ms. Kelly showed up at his doorstep and broke the news to him that he could also be her father. Talk to us about the journey you've been on trying to find out who your biological father is.
When I was 2, my grandparents started raising me, and I noticed that I was different because they're white and I was brown. My grandmother used to get awkward looks and she would say stuff to people, and sometimes kids gave me trouble at school. And when my grandfather, he got killed when I was 10, so not having that male influence in my life, I started to act out, get in trouble at school and all kind of stuff. And that's when Lariat thought it would be a good idea to let me meet my father. And she told me that there was a chance of 2 guys. She took me to meet her ex-boyfriend, and it was kind of awkward. He was quiet, showed no emotion, and I also met Mr. Duncan, and he's always opened his doors to me, him and his wife. He's always wanted me to be his.
And so, Mr. Duncan, when you were contacted, were you surprised and disbelief? What were your thoughts?
Oh, I was happy. I was proud. I was proud, you know, to have a look, you know, to have a child.
Did you question it? Did you have doubts?
I might have had a little doubt because at that time, she was living with a guy. She was living with a guy, but she was a nice-looking girl, and I was a little bit older, and maybe it might have been wrong, but she was real pretty. And I didn't look that bad myself back then, and I'm trying to bring her over to my side, but she's living with another guy.
She was in a relationship with somebody else and even living with them.
Yes, Your Honor.
But she was dating you on the side.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you wanted her to be with you.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so when you got the call, you said to yourself, I remember who this is, of course,
True.
and you would be happy if this young woman is my daughter.
Right now a day, and I've been hoping 24 years. I've been hoping the same thing, and I only had one mustard seed. That's all I got. It's one mustard seed about this little girl right here. But I tell you this right now, I hope to God this is my child. I do.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful to hear, sir. Miss Kelly, you remember, of course, the relationship because you introduced your daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
And you wanted to help her. You knew that it was time.
Yeah, because like I said,
Take me back a little bit.
Because like I said, I was young when I had her, and I made some mistakes, and my mom wound up wanting to step to the plate and raise her. So my mom and my dad raised her, and like I said, when my dad got killed, it really disturbed her. She's seen everything happen. So she started being rebellious towards my mom, and everything showed out in school and all. And I knew it was time. My mom never wanted her to know who her father was. And I knew I had to. She's mine, regardless. And I went to her house one day and I took and picked her up. And I took her to town and I said, Destiney, I said, you have 2 possibilities of fathers. I said, it's time you meet both. I never hid this from her. I hated that happen. I really do. But she met the ex, and she went and met Mr. Duncan. And from then on, like I say, Mr. Duncan's always accepted her. The ex, it's just, when I told him I was pregnant and everything, it was just sort of just, he didn't care. It was the opposite with Charlie. And I want closure for her. She's been through enough in her life, and it's time she gets her closure.
Now, Mr. Duncan, take me back. Once you were in a relationship with Miss Kelly, you found out she was pregnant.
Yes, Your Honor.
And then what point did she start living with you? Because you said she was living with another man.
Yes, she was, Your Honor.
All right, so how did that come to be that she was living with you?
Me and Miss Kelly had spent some time together, and I took her and Destiney home. And her father come out, and me and him had some words. And I ain't gonna say what the words was, but they weren't no good words.
Understood.
So I told him, I said, well, they can come stay with me. I had my own house, I had my own land, I had a good job, I had a good car, and I wasn't that bad looking.
That's you?
That's me right there.
No, you weren't.
I
You wasn't that bad at all.
No, I wasn't that bad looking.
You did the right thing. What I want to understand is when you decided to take her in and say they could come live with you, what were you thinking? Did you doubt even then Destiny was yours?
It might come out today that she ain't my child because all them years, people would say, that ain't your child. She said, that ain't your child. But deep in my heart, every time they would say that, it's like somebody jugging me. It's like somebody's jugging, you know? Never once, not even one time did I ever turn my back on that child. I always knew that this little girl right here was mine. I always knew that.
If you want more episodes of Paternity Court, make sure to subscribe and click on the notification bell. So after they came and lived with you, you all fell out, you got into a disagreement, and then you left.
Right. She chose to leave. Sometimes people, they get mad and the truth will come out. You know, but people will come up to me and say, she said, that ain't your little girl.
I understand. Ms. Kelly, I have to ask you, you started telling people that's not his child.
Yes, ma'am.
You said you told other people she wasn't his child. Did you ever tell him directly?
Well, Your Honor, it's been so long, I really can't recall.
Do you ever recall her telling you directly
Yes,
that's not your child?
Yes, Your Honor, I do recall her
What
telling
happened?
me to my face. And I knew that she could be telling the truth.
And so then people would come up to you on the street and say, she said that's not your child. Even though she told you to your face, Destiny may not be yours. You had the doubt, but you still were hoping. But you always believed in your heart after spending that time with her that that was your baby.
It might come out today that this ain't my child. But not once did I ever have doubt that she was.
All right. So at what point did you lose contact then? If you believed this was your child, knew this was your child, even though you two had broken up, how'd you lose contact with Destiny?
I didn't know what to do. The same pain that she was going through by people saying this is your daddy and that's your dad and stuff like that. I went through the same pain of them telling me that that ain't my child. I know you don't know how it would feel for somebody to say that to you, but it really do hurt. Every time they say it, every time you hear it, I mean, it just breaks you down, but what could I do? I'm not sure that I'm her father. So should I go and start trouble? Should I start trouble or should I just love her from afar? All them years I watched her grow up. I loved her from afar, and I love her just as much today as I did today when she took that picture.
That's so beautiful. Thank you for that, sir. You know, Ms. Kelly, I have to ask you, this is difficult, and it's wonderful to hear, you know, a man be so passionate about a young girl that he believes is his daughter, despite what people tell him. I want to know from you, when did you hear that there were other possibilities? When did you hear that there were other possibilities? Your mom says she told you she was going to take you to the two possibilities. Tell me what happened when you met Mr. Anthony.
That was probably the most awkward situation I've ever been in my life.
What happened?
We go to knock on this man's door and tell him after 25 years later I might be his child.
No phone call first?
No.
Wow.
I was
you
ready.
knock on the door and what happens?
Lariette introduced us and she just wanted to let him know there might be a chance to see how he felt about it, if he would be willing to take a test with me to give me that closure. And he was willing. At first it was strange, it was very quiet. We just kind of sat there and looked at each other, not much was said. I just looked at his pictures of his kids. He has 7 children and I would be 8. 8's my favorite number.
Did you feel any connection?
I can see some resemblance in, I think, like 1 or 2 of his kids. And then he's got his certificates and stuff from school hanging on his living room wall, and I have my living room wall the same way.
So, Miss Kelly, do you remember the relationship with Mr. Anthony?
Yes, Your Honor, it was not even what you want to call a relationship. It was a 2-minute thing. We never seen each other again or nothing.
So it was more of a one-night stand?
Yeah, pretty much.
And you never saw him again?
No, I mean, I seen him as far as like around town or whatever, but
you never were intimate with him again?
Relationship-wise or nothing.
And so when you found out you were pregnant, did you ever tell him right from the beginning?
Because I think I was already pregnant when that occurred.
You think you were already pregnant?
Yeah.
So you're doubtful as to whether or not he's Destiney's father? You don't feel he is?
I don't feel he is.
But when you knew your daughter needed that connection, that father figure, you said it could be one of two people. Why did you include him?
He was the only other possibility that it could be.
Now let's get to the point where you've now met Mr. Anthony and you've met Mr. Duncan.
Yes.
When you finish meeting both of them, what are you thinking? Have you decided, no, I think this one is my father?
I compare lots of things, like Mr. Duncan's very outspoken. Depending on the situation, I could be outspoken. Mr. Anthony, he's kind of quiet and laid back, which I can be like that sometimes too. I compare the looks between Mr. Duncan's kids, Mr. Anthony's kids, just always looking for that one connection that will just make me think, yeah, this is it.
All right, well, Mr. Anthony has prepared a video statement for the court. And we can take a look at that now.
My name is Sammy Anthony. I just finished taking a DNA test to find out if 25-year-old Destiney is my daughter. When I first found out I could be Destiney's father, I was shocked. I never knew Miss Kelly was pregnant. I mean, this was the first I was hearing of it about a month ago when they approached me and said that I could possibly be the father. But now I don't think she looked like me or, my other kids. It's just hard after, finding out something like this after 25 years. You really don't know how to feel.
So after you see that, do you feel like his feelings about this, his emotions about this, is it fair?
Yeah, because if somebody came to my door and said I might have a 25-year-old child, I would be in shock also.
And Mr. Duncan, when the video was playing, you seemed to kind of look downward, disregard it. What did you feel? Do you feel like you want to honor the fact that this man potentially could be Destiney's father?
I know this man, and I don't have nothing against this man. If this is this man's daughter, then I'm proud for him to have his child, because if you ever had a child and you were glad to have a child, this would be one up. So if this is his child, then I know he'll be more than proud for her to be his daughter.
So, Destiney, what are your hopes today?
I hope to find out that one of these two is the father and get some closure. We can hopefully form a relationship. They can get to know my kids.
How many children do you have?
3.
And what are your hopes today, Mr. Duncan?
I knew that one day that all this might happen, and I'm glad that it is. I hope that mustard seed that I got will come to be so. I'm glad that.
Well, Mr. Anthony also submitted a statement and outlined his hopes.
It's important for a paternity court to give me these results, because ever since her and her mother approached me, I've been wondering, am I the father? So if it turns out that I am, I would love to have a relationship with her. But of course, that would be up to her.
Ms. Kelly, what are your hopes?
Deep down inside, I'll be glad when the results are revealed, and I pray that Charlie is her father.
Okay. Jerome, the results, please. These results were prepared by DNA Diagnostics, and they read as follows. In the case of Kelly v. Duncan Anthony, when it comes to Destiney Kelly, Mr. Anthony is not her father. In the case of Kelly v. Duncan Anthony, when it comes to Destiney Kelly, Mr. Duncan, you...
Do you want to watch Paternity Court on TV? Go to paternitycourt.tv to find your local listings.
In the case of Kelly v. Duncan Anthony, when it comes to Destiney Kelly, Mr. Duncan, you are not her father. I'm sorry to you both. I know how much you wanted it. Miss Kelly, how are you feeling?
Confused still.
That's understandable.
I'm just confused and anxious to find out who it is. I just want to know.
Absolutely, and you deserve to know. Because you are a beautiful, smart young lady, and any man should feel blessed and honored to have you as their daughter.
We'll be back.
Absolutely. And I was just about to say, he marched in right in the nick of time, because I was about to say, in this courtroom, we say all the time that it takes DNA to be a father, but it takes love to be a daddy. And you are so loved by Mr. Duncan. You came to this courtroom for the truth, right? Mm-hmm. But the truth, the most amazing truth you got today, was the fact that you are loved by this man. He just loves you to pieces. And sir, I hope you keep doing that. And I hope you keep your search going, because you deserve to know. It's your right. If you need this courtroom, you need us again, we'll be there for you. And we'll also have some resources for you to help you process this and figure out how to make your next steps, all right?
Okay.
I wish you the best of luck. Keep being a strong, strong girl. Remember, you're not just doing it for yourself, but for those beautiful children. All right?
Thank you.
Good luck to you. Court is adjourned.